If it wasn't for those amputations, I wouldn't have my black belt. If it wasn't for those amputations, I wouldn't have been able to, to go to Abu Dhabi and be a part of the U.S. Para Jiu-Jitsu team.
Jiu-Jitsu allows people to kind of take all the pieces, all the moves, and make it work for you. And if you don't have a leg or if you can't do this, there's always a way around it. It's so cool to see how it's opened up so many doors for you.
If we have 100 years on this planet, life is still short. Go out there and put yourself to the test. Go out and see what you're capable of doing. And I would say that you're gonna surprise yourself on what you're actually capable of doing once you put your mind to something.
Hey guys, welcome back to the Self-Taught Grappling Podcast, where we grapple with life, faith, disabilities, and sometimes real people. I'm your host, Alan, the Self-Taught Grappler. Today I have an amazing interview for you guys. I have one of the pioneers of para jiu-jitsu in the world. His name is Rustin Hughes. He is an above-the-knee amputee and a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. He's traveled all over the world competing and is a multiple-time gold medal athlete. So I'm super excited to go into his story. And he is also the president of a nonprofit called Be Bold. And it's a nonprofit that helps different para athletes, specifically jiu-jitsu athletes, reach their full potential. So I'm super excited to get into all this. But before we get into that, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support me and what I'm doing, please consider subscribing, liking, following, all those things. I've also been neglecting my Spotify, but I've updated all the episodes. So I am now on Spotify. All the episodes are there. So if you don't want to see my face, go listen at Spotify. So now, let's get to the interview. All right, guys, and here is my friend Rustin. Rustin, thanks for coming on the show, man.
Oh, thanks for having me.
Yeah, man, pleasure to have you. Man, so why don't you introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you have going on.
Yeah, my name is Rustin Hughes. I am an above the knee amputee. I'm a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And yeah, I'm a MMA coach. I help coach out at for our MMA team here in Fort Collins, Colorado at Trials MMA.
Okay, awesome, dude. So black belt in jiu-jitsu. How long have you been training?
Um, I so I really never got engulfed into the gi until after I lost my leg.
Okay,
Uh, yeah, so I started off at a Gracie jiu-jitsu school and really I used to wrestle growing up. I loved jiu-jitsu, really interested in the striking, got onto the MMA team. That was here in Colorado, and then I moved to Nebraska. That's where I'm from, is Nebraska. I moved back to Nebraska, and they didn't really have like a big gi programs, so I continued on fighting, and we did a lot of no gi stuff. Um, at that time, I was married to my wife, Brandy, and she had brain cancer, and she passed away in 2012.
I'm sorry.
And then I moved back to Colorado, and I really wanted to focus on being happy. I after going through my wife had brain cancer for 11 years. And just after going through all of that, I really wanted to just focus on being happy. And one thing that I really found a lot of enjoyment was in cooking. I really loved to
Oh, good.
cook.
Oh, good,
So,
dude. I love cooking too. My mom is an amazing cook, so I've kind of grabbed a lot of stuff from her and kind of made my own. It's awesome. What do you like to make? What's your go-to?
you know, I um I love to make anything and everything. I like really like finding new ingredients. I've really been getting into just farm to table type stuff. We have a big garden in our backyard, and how can we utilize the like from the garden and really getting into grass-fed beef and finding local um, people around our area and just cooking that way. But to be honest, I probably make more Mexican style
Oh,
dishes.
really?
Uh,
Okay.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I really wanted to focus on, just I love cooking, and I found a culinary school in Boulder, Colorado. And I graduated at the top of my class. I did my internship in Key West, which was an amazing experience. I spent 4 months in Key West working at a high-end restaurant and high-end catering company. Graduated and then came, back to Fort Collins, and I had the plan was to start a like a private chef type business, helping families learn how to cook for themselves, and with the hopes of even getting a food truck going.
Mhm.
Um, we had gone to Red Rocks for a concert. And if you've ever been to Red Rocks, there's just a lot of climbing involved in getting to your seats. And I had this issue in my right leg where um, it felt like the best way I could explain it, it kind of felt like I had concrete in my leg. My leg felt super heavy. I thought that I had a pinched nerve, and it just progressively had gotten worse and worse. And it was really hard for me to climb up to the seats. I was taking a really long time. And then after the concert was over, we're going back to the parking lot, and it was even worse.
Mm.
And then the next day, we went to a farmer's market, and I physically could not walk. I was stuck in the middle of this farmer's market, and my girlfriend at the time, who is now my new wife, um, I told her, I was like, "You're gonna have to get the car because I can't walk." And she was like, "Well, if I go get the car, I'm taking you to the emergency room." And I was like, "No, you're not gonna take me to the emergency room. Like they're just gonna tell me it's a pinched nerve." And she was just like, "Listen, like the only way I'm gonna go get the car is if you go to the emergency room." And one thing that was, definitely by the grace of God, I had just gotten my VA benefits. I'm a veteran, and my VA benefits had just kind of kicked in. And she reminded me of that, like, "Hey, I'm going to take you to the Denver VA." And so I agreed. And the whole way there, I was complaining the whole way there because I was like, "They're just going to tell me it's a pinched nerve and give me an ibuprofen and tell me, go home." We go into the emergency room, and they, ask me what's going on. I'm explaining to them everything, and they take me back, and they're doing an ultrasound of my leg. And the technician kind of made a comment, and I questioned her comment, and she was just like, "I'm not supposed to tell you this, but you've got a really big blood clot in the artery of your right leg." And to be honest, at that time, I really didn't know the difference between arteries and veins. And I didn't know, like, so, they're wheeling me back into the waiting room. And Britta asked me, she's like, "Well, what'd they say?" And I go, "I don't know. The lady said that I got a really big blood clot in my artery." And we instantly are Googling all this stuff, and everything that I'm finding is not good at all.
Yeah.
And the doctor comes in, and he's just like, "Listen, you have got a huge blood clot in the artery of your leg, and we need to get you into ICU right now." And it was just a very surreal moment. It almost felt like I was in this dream. And the doctor had said, as I'm going to the ICU, he's like, "You're probably going to have your leg amputated, and you're going to be on blood thinners for the rest of your life." And
Wow.
it was just this, like, I couldn't believe like what he was saying. And so getting into ICU, that was definitely it was it was tough just because they didn't. exactly know when they were going to do this procedure. And the procedure was they were going into my groin on the left side, and they were going to send a wire in my groin and then have it go into the artery where there was the clot. And they were going to try to break that clot up with this wire. I remember, like being put under for the procedure and then waking up, and the doctors are like, unfortunately, your blood clot is, they compared it to concrete. They said that the clot was so, um, I don't even know how they worded it, but they said it was like concrete, and that they were going to put me on this heparin drip, and that was like a blood clot buster. It was supposed to help break that blood clot up, and they were going to come back the next day, and they were going to try to be a little bit more aggressive in trying to break through the clot. The blood clot started at my hip and it ended at my knee.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, it was pretty much the whole thigh was one big clot. And they went in the next day, and the plan was to be more aggressive. And I think that they kind of lost track of time because I woke up. I came out of the anesthesia uh, at the end of the procedure, and it felt like, like I remember waking up and everything below my waist was on fire, is what it felt like. It was this burning, and I kind of sit up, and like I'm on the operating table or whatever, and I sit up, and they're like, "You need to lay back down," and I'm telling like I can feel like I'm in a lot of pain, and I just remember like the nurse was running over, and it seemed like it was slow motion. She's running, and she puts a shot in the little port that I had in my arm, and like it knocked me out instantly. And then next thing I remember is I'm in my hospital room, and I waking up, and like my mom and my dad are there. Britta, my wife, was there. All these doctors and nurses, and they're just like, unfortunately, we cannot break through this clot. Um, they had told me that this happens to people at times, and the collateral vessels will take over. And they said that my collateral vessels are also clotting as well, so I am not getting any blood flow past my hip.
Mm,
Um, and the next step was to meet with a vascular surgeon, but that appointment wasn't for another 6 weeks. And so I was discharged from the hospital with a really big bottle of oxycodone and a bottle of pain, or a bottle of blood thinners. And, you know, I could not believe that this is like where I was at. And my wife and I had just started dating. We're like a year into our relationship. So it was at one of those times where she very easily could have just said, "This is too much." You know,
mhm,
I hope the best for you. We decided that I needed to come up with whatever decision I was going to make. I needed to make that decision kind of on my own. And so I went back to Nebraska and stayed with my parents until the vascular surgeon appointment. During that time, I was pretty uh, I was pretty depressed. I couldn't believe like this is where I was at. I had just lost my first wife 2 years. I was still, kind of grieving that, and now they're telling me that I might have to have my leg amputated, and I just knew I did not like the road that I was going down with those pain pills. I was playing my own pharmacist. It started off with 1 to 2 pills every 4 hours. It multiplied. I was taking up to anywhere from like 6 to 8 pills. And just it wasn't a good it wasn't a good scenario. And so 6 weeks comes and I have my appointment and I mean one of the first things that I brought up was just like, hey, that ER doctor told me I was gonna have my leg amputated. Like how, like what was he right? Like where are we at? Like what are our next steps in this? And they're like, unfortunately, like where we're at right now, you need to have most likely an amputation of your leg. They gave it an option to do a bypass, and they explained the bypass to me, and just to me, it didn't make sense. That was a very long distance to bypass. And if the bypass would have failed, I would have automatically become an above the knee amputee. And the option that they gave me was a below the knee amputation. And so I said, let's just do the below the knee amputation. And looking back on it, probably should have just done the above the knee. So I go in. It was August 22nd, I believe, August 21st, 22nd, I can't remember. And they do the amputation. The following week was my 40-year birthday. We go up to Estes Park, um, and I was in extreme pain. None of the medicine that I had would take care of the issues that I had going on. I had to go to the emergency room, and the ER there, they didn't really want to get too involved in this because I still had stitches in my leg, and um, they told me to go back to the VA. They gave me a shot of morphine to take care of the pain. Told me to go back to the VA. I go into the VA the following day, and the doctor takes one of those Q-tips, those long Q-tips,
Mm,
and he just buried it into my incision, and uh, I had an infection all the way up into my knee,
mm,
and uh, they needed to get into another surgery. And right before they put me under for the surgery, they informed me that they may have to amputate above the knee. Um, and they wanted to know if I wanted to be woke up to be told that they were going to do the amputation because they were going to go in there and try to clean everything out, and with a possibility if it didn't work out, they would have to amputate. And I just told them, I go, I don't want to be woke up. If you have to amputate it, just go ahead and do it. And I remember waking up, and the leg was gone, and I lost it. I couldn't believe
mhm,
that
mhm.
they actually had to amputate it. And
So you experienced two amputations on the same leg at two different times.
yeah, within 3 weeks, it
That
was
is a lot to go through in 3 weeks, man. I'm sorry. That is a lot. So,
yeah. But I think that it was what's so weird about it, like it was probably the best thing that happened to me,
really,
to be honest.
how,
Yeah.
how so?
Um, at that time I was very angry.
Mm,
Um, I was depressed. And I look at it as it was probably the lowest I'd ever been. And but now I get to look back on everything. And if it wasn't for that amputation, you and I wouldn't be talking right now.
oh,
You know what I'm saying?
yeah.
If I didn't go through those amputations, I probably wouldn't have pursued jujitsu.
Mm,
Um, if it wasn't for those amputations, I wouldn't have my black belt. If it wasn't for those amputations, I wouldn't have been able to go to Abu Dhabi and be a part of the U.S. Para Jiu-Jitsu team. I've got to meet a lot of amazing people and do some really awesome things. And I look back on it, and it all kind of stems from, that amputation. And I look at that amputation as almost a blessing.
mm,
Um, and how uh, I think that we go through life a lot of times, and when bad things happen, I thought I was being punished in a sense, that God was punishing me, but what he was doing is he was preparing me for this for this next steps in my life.
Oh, that's a great perspective, man. So, let's fast forward a little bit. So, how do you get from your leg being amputated a second time above the knee to you walking into a jiu-jitsu gym and starting your jiu-jitsu journey? What got you there?
So a really good friend of mine, his name is Ryan Schultz. He owns Trials MMA here in Fort Collins.
Okay.
And since it was my right leg, I need hand controls to drive. And I couldn't afford them at that time. So I couldn't get around. And, I was depending on people for rides and stuff. And I could really go as far as my wheelchair would take me. And so I'd called him up and I just said, hey, is there any way that we could work something out? And we decided that he would pick me up on Tuesdays and Thursdays and take me to the gym. And I I taught myself how to box. He was coaching a class and we had heavy bags kind of in the back of the gym. And I just go back there and teach myself how to box again. And um, at that same time frame, there was a grappling class that was going on. And I was like, do you think that I could get back into, rolling again? And he was just, he was like, I don't know, but you're going to have to find a way to take your disadvantages and make them your advantages.
Mm-hmm.
And when he had told me that, it was like this light bulb went off. And I'm just so grateful that I had really good training partners that would really help because at that time you couldn't just Google one-legged grappling or anything. There was
Yeah.
nobody out doing it. And so we got to create my style. And what I loved about it was there was no one to tell me that I was doing it wrong. And there was no one to tell me, you know, other than, I was just so happy to be in the gym and find that community again. It was something that I really, really missed from it reminded me of being in the army again, that camaraderie and that friendship that we developed. And then, I remember like going in one day and we're working whatever type of submission, and then the next day I come in and they're all like, hey, I've been thinking about this, maybe you could try to do this, or try to do something. And it was just this progress that I got to see, and it was really awesome to find. I honestly, I think it's the best physical therapy and the best mental therapy that I ever could have found. Um, and so yeah, so getting back in, I was a white belt because I never really had any type of belts or anything before,
Yeah,
and
right.
going from white belt, and I remember when I got my blue belt, man, I was so pumped. Like I just seen all this progression, and then um, I did a grappling tournament here in Denver, and I got third place. And one of my matches, I hit an armbar like in 15 seconds.
Oh, dude, nice.
It got a lot of social media attention, and from that, a friend of a friend recommended that I contact this guy. His name was Ronald Mann, and he was a below the knee amputee, and he had just got back from Abu Dhabi. He competed in the first para jiu-jitsu worlds
Oh,
in Abu,
what,
and
what year? What year was this? What year was the first one?
it was 2017, I
Okay,
believe.
2017. Okay, gotcha.
And so he was just like, hey, we want to form a team. There's going to be a tournament in LA. It's under the UAE JJF, United Arab Emirates Jiu-Jitsu Federation. And he's like, can you be out there? And I was like, dude, I'm there.
That's
And
awesome.
we had like, I think there was 12 of us, and we had somebody donate. Uh, I think it was Philnauer. They're a prosthetic company. They donated enough money for all of us to get an Airbnb, and everyone stayed in the same uh, Airbnb. We got to really connect with all of these different uh, para athletes. I'd never met anyone else that was doing jiu-jitsu that had a disability. And we got to meet the Brazilians. The Brazilians always have big numbers in the para side of it.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
Yeah, and so it was really cool to see all of these like-minded individuals and to be part of a team. Um, I we were able to compete in able-bodied and para at that event, and I took gold in both para and able-bodied, and it was just this, really cool experience that I continued the following year. We had another competition in LA, and then I went to London and competed in London, and then competed in Abu Dhabi
Mm.
at the Worlds there. And then the following year, I was a part of uh, the JJIF, the Jiu-Jitsu International Federation. They were starting a para side too, and so they had a competition in Sweden, and then I was able to take part in. It was the uh, World Combat Games, is what it was, and it was kind of like the Olympics of combat sports.
Oh, wow.
There was 13 sports that were there, and seven of them had a para equivalent. And jujitsu was one of those para sports. It was in Saudi Arabia, so we flew to Saudi Arabia and then competed, and then I flew right on into Abu Dhabi and then competed at Worlds there. Um, yeah, it's just been a really amazing uh, journey, and what the plan is for this year, 2026, is kind of taking Ronald Mann's dream of forming a team and actually having it come to a reality. And the goal is I would love to take five para athletes. That's my goal, is to take five. I mean, if I could double that, that would be even better.
Yeah.
And I want to make a team. I want us to have a team gi. I want us to have uniforms. I want us to look like the Brazilians look, man,
Oh,
because
yeah. Yeah,
you know,
all the same, all ready to go. Then all with the US logo somewhere. Yeah, that sounds awesome.
no, it's in Abu Dhabi is such an amazing city. In Abu Dhabi, they don't have a word for handicapped or a word for disabled. They say people of determination. And I thought that was just an amazing
I
way.
like.
Yeah. I think that I have a nonprofit called Be Bold, and we help people of all abilities get into martial arts. And so many times I've asked people to be a part of one of my classes, and they're like, "Oh, I can't do that because I'm handicapped, or I can't do that because I'm disabled." And it's so hard to say, "I can't do that because I'm a person of determination." And it's something that I would really like to adopt and bring back to the States, and because I believe it all starts with our words, and it's also a mindset. If
Mhm.
you think you're disabled, then you're going to be disabled. That's the only true disability that I believe is just a bad mindset. And if we can start to change that mindset and start to find our advantages in the disadvantages, I think that jujitsu is an amazing way to kind of to showcase that.
Yeah, no, I like it a lot. People of determination. Yeah, it's really hard to say no, I can't when when I say, oh yeah, I'm a person of determination.
Yeah,
Like, cause
yeah,
I get into those bad mindsets too, because I have difficulty moving in jujitsu and all that stuff. So I'm kind of developing my own style as I go too. So it's really cool how jujitsu allows people to kind of take all the pieces, all the moves, and make it work for you. And you don't have a leg or if you can't do this, there's always a way around it. It's so cool to see how it's opened up so many doors for you. And so tell me more about Abu Dhabi. So for those that don't know, the Abu Dhabi Grand Slam is like a giant jiu-jitsu tournament in Abu Dhabi. That's where a lot of the prestige grapplers go, and they created a para jiu-jitsu division for anybody. So, tell me more about your competition, how you won.
I've won it twice.
Okay.
What's
Let's
crazy,
go twice.
there's no weight classes. And so the first guy that I went against, he was from England, and I'd seen him on social media, and I was just like, this guy is probably about my size, like I'm 5'9", 150 pounds, 55 pounds. I was like, this guy's my size.
Mm.
And then we get over to Abu Dhabi, and I meet him in person, and he's like 6'1", 200, 200 and like, I don't know, 205 or something like that. He's a big dude. And I was like, this guy is not my size at all. Um, but one thing that I realized during that match was I've really been able to utilize my, I call it my nub, and I named it Nub Jitsu.
Huh.
I've been able to really utilize not having the leg, or the part of the leg that I do have. I utilize that as much as possible. And I think that that's what really separated he and I, was that he wouldn't use his, um,
It's no.
you know, yeah, he wouldn't use his nub.
Yeah.
And I think that that's what kind of separated us. He was a purple belt, and I was a brown belt, and I really found a lot of different ways to utilize not having the leg. And I think that that was one of the biggest things that separated us in that match. It was a high paced match for sure. Like it was, um, from the get go. He was definitely coming after me.
Yeah.
And
Dude, that's awesome. I'd love to see that match. So to wrap this all up, because I'm kind of running out of time on the Zoom call. What for anybody going through any kind of amputation or finding out like, hey, you have this now, like you have this disadvantage, you have this disability. How would you encourage them to go? If they want to try martial arts, they can try martial arts. Or if they want to try anything, how would you kind of encourage them to go do that?
um, I think first of all, life is short.
Hmm.
Life is short. Even if we have 100 years on this planet, life is still short. Go out there and put yourself to the test. Go out and see what you're capable of doing. And I would say that you're gonna surprise yourself on what you're actually capable of doing once you put your mind to something. Once you put your heart into something. And what I really appreciate about Sue is that the community is so supporting. They are very, very supporting. And you're going to find that camaraderie that I think a lot of people are craving these days. We get so secluded in our house, and, we have all these, our phone and computers, so we don't even have to leave our house. But I think that that's something that we need, that human connection. And I think that, I think the hardest part of it is walking through the front door for the first time. But once you're able to do that, it's going to change your life in such a way that you would not even imagine that you could, and the things that you're going to be able to do, and the confidence that it will instill is just amazing. And so I just challenge anyone out there that's listening right now, is like, put yourself out of your comfort zone just for one time, and try something new. It doesn't even need to be jujitsu. If it's whatever that it is, take yourself out of your comfort zone, and you're going to surprise yourself with the results you find.
Okay, that's awesome. I love it, man. And how can someone support? Because you asked me if I want to go to Abu Dhabi with you, which hey, I'm down to go. So, but how can someone listening to this support the cause?
In a couple different ways. So I am the president of the United States Para Jiu-Jitsu organization. And I've been filming a documentary for the last 3 years of my jiu-jitsu journey. So there's two ways you can donate to the United States Para Jiu-Jitsu um, uh, website, or I have my website called BeBoldAdaptiveLiving.com, and we are looking for corporate sponsors, individual sponsors to help form this team as well. Um, and that's the thing is that I think that if I could reach one person that would have the ability to help sponsor some of this programs, it would change so many people's lives. Um, and just look us up on social media, see what we're doing. We're on Facebook at B-bold, and then on Instagram it's adaptive_living, adaptive score. Um, it's adaptive living. Yeah, adaptive living is what it's under. But or you can find me on social media as well, Rustin Hughes, Facebook and Instagram.
Okay, cool. I'll make sure to leave all those links in the description so people can go check them out. But thanks for coming out, man. Your story's really encouraging. I love to hear it, and I'm down to go to Abu Dhabi. I've always wanted to go do that, so let's make it happen. Hopefully, people watch this, and you know, yeah, we get some sponsorships. We can go.
No, for real. And if not, I'm pretty sure that we'll be able to find those sponsors.
Mm.
But I also want people to learn how to get sponsors themselves. That's another thing I want to do. I've been able to go and travel and do all this stuff through sponsorships. I've not spent a dime on any of this stuff out of my own pocket. I've had a lot of different sponsors, and I want to another thing that I'm doing is I'm kind of taking a step out of the being a competitor and taking a step into the coaching side of it,
Mhm.
just so we can help. Because I think we need a coach. We need to help have someone kind of navigate all of this stuff and not worry about competing as well. And so that's my next phase of my jujitsu is kind of looking into being more of a coach and how can I help these other athletes navigate, find the funding and go over to because it's a 17-hour flight
Yeah.
and a lot of people and it's an awesome flight. Like I love going over to Abu Dhabi. The whole experience is just amazing and I just want to help in any way that I can.
All right. Well, hopefully we can get you out there again, man. I appreciate you coming on. I love talking to you. Thank you so much.
No, thank you very much. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you again, Rustin, for coming on the show. I really enjoyed talking to you, and I really hope I get to join you and the rest of the guys that you want to recruit for Abu Dhabi, that I get to go with you guys to Abu Dhabi and compete. That would be a dream come true for me. And so, if not, thank you for coming on the show. Please go support Be Bold. All the links are in the description. And again, if you like what I'm doing here, please consider liking and subscribing and following. And don't forget to check me out on Spotify. And with that being said, I will see you guys on the next.